Good evening to a new edition of the Now Granted podcast. I am Michael, one of your co-hosts. Joining me from the dark side of Pacific time are also my other co-hosts, Ryan and Kevin. And on tonight, Peace Between Korea, Dismantled, maybe Mouth the Nuclear Program, Restoring Pay Equality to Men, Google's own report, and then, lastly, Hillary not going anywhere, helping or hurting DNC chances in 2020. So stay tuned tonight, and let's get the show on the road. Gentlemen, how are you doing tonight?
Well, I am doing great. We got a new, hopefully a new segment of the audience. We're also broadcasting live to Facebook right now.
Well, fantastic. At least, we're technically improving little by little,
We're trying.
We're trying. Trying. You're blaming me and Kevin here for a lot of technical issues that, may or may not be our fault.
I'm, for my own sanity, I'm just going to choose to believe they are.
I'm not even touching any of the technical parts, so it's absolutely not my fault.
Oh, great. So great. Just laying this all on me.
It's just you, Mike. It's just you.
It's just me. Oh, snap. But nevertheless, I'm doing fairly well tonight. So yeah, I would say to get the show on the road. So, I don't know, what do you guys want to start with first? You want to start with Google and pay equality to men? Unheard of, right? From a tech giant.
Get started with that. That's a pretty interesting turn of events. So it looks like what Google does is every year or every so often they evaluate their employees' pay and to make sure that it stays within their equity standards and minorities aren't getting aren't getting paid unfairly. They adjust people's pay based on those numbers. So they crunch a lot of numbers, and I guess it just so turned out that there is a pay equity problem at Google, and a bunch of men were getting underpaid.
Okay. Well, you want me to throw up the article, and then we can kind of discuss it even further? What?
Yeah, I just put it up there myself.
All right, cool. So on my end, there we go. So it is from, what is the source? Ars Technica? Is that how you pronounce it? Technica?
Ars Technica. It is a technology website. Just like any news source, it generally tends to be a little bit to the left. But mostly it just talks about like tech news.
Yeah.
So it's pretty interesting that they're posting something that's a pretty hot topic at the moment.
All right. Yeah, well, so it says, just to start, Google has given raises to thousands of men after the analysis pay structure found that the company otherwise would be underpaying those men relative to their peers in a New York Times report. So New York Times reported on this first. Seems like now they're kind of catching up on the coattails. So,
I wanted the Ars Technica version just because it's more of a technical side.
Yeah.
So it's not have as much of the SJW nonsense that other news sources might have.
Mm-hmm. No, of course. But so it says in a quote from a Monday blog post that we provided $9.7 million in adjustments to a total of 10,677 Googlers. So all men, and $9-something million between all 10,000 of them.
That's significant.
That is significant. It's like, hey, here's almost $10 million. What is like $100,000 per? No, $10,000.
That's about 10% of their workforce. Actually, a little bit more, probably closer to 11. There's 98,771 Google employees. So effective. That's pretty big.
Sorry, we've been underpaying you $10 million collectively. So,
yeah.
But out of everything, that's pretty good, I would assume. At least they did the audit and actually went through with the audit.
Well, I think what it highlights is that there's improvements that can be made for everybody, and for me, one of the biggest issues that I have in general with as far as social justice and that sort of thing goes, is that there's no way to really put everybody into one overarching group. Like, I'm not just white, I'm not just a man, you know? So I think what this is showing is that any group of people can have issues and problems and, you know, be underpaid just like any other group.
Yeah.
Well, do you think it's a surprise that this is happening at Google, considering what they did to James Damore and that kind of stuff?
I mean, that's probably the surprising thing, right? Is that what they do with James Damore? Like, there's these categorical, how he in his his memo, right?
Yeah.
His memo that there's categorical differences, and we're trying to get women to tech and everything else like that gets completely lambasted by the company, gets fired and everything else like that. And
it's probably a safe assumption to assume that it's their hiring practices that have led to it. But there are other factors that would be involved. So these, this 10% of the workforce might be, more agreeable than the average man. So they're not going to negotiate with Google for their pay at the same rates as their peers. So it could be making up for those sorts of problems. Not to offend anybody, but coders aren't known to be the most manly and aggressive people on the planet. So
yeah, could be. I mean, could be possible.
Eat you. Just as much as I don't want to give them their due, you gotta be fair.
Well, and then I think this comes maybe another question: is it up to the companies to be responsible to pay people equally?
I think that it's
maybe not equally, but fairly. My bad. Fairly is the word.
I think that it's up to employees to get disgruntled and to have problems, and that if the best way to mitigate those kinds of problems arising is to do these kinds of analyses, then yeah, that's great. But I don't think the government should require it. It may be a good business practice though. Okay,
so if it's a good business practice for companies to audit themselves and to fairly pay their employees, you're fine with that. Just to start. But then,
and the job of the employees to make sure that it's good business practice to treat them fairly.
Yeah. So when you say employees being disgruntled, are you calling for socialist labor strikes?
I'm not calling for it, but if the situation warranted it, then yes, I would strike.
Ryan calling for striking. I'd love it.
But that would also be after the government gets out of taking over the union's jobs. So.
Oh. Okay.
In a more democratic situation, so in a more democratic economy, I actually would support labor unions. So long as their goal is to just fight for the fair wage for their employees.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, Kevin, you're going to say something?
Yeah. Do you think Google is going to do anything about this? Are they going to start paying men more?
Looks like, yeah. We provided $10.7 million in adjustments to a total of 10,677 Googlers. Is the quote from the article that we showed. Who was saying that?
I think it said what, a Monday blog post or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. Oh yeah, Monday blog post. So some, PR rep at Google.
Okay. So I mean, I think it makes them more attractive though.
This is definitely positive for them, at least as far as attracting new employees. It means that they're going to get paid fairly. At least that's the perception.
Yeah. Then because if I recall correctly, at least maybe I heard this offhand, but hasn't Google been losing a bunch of their coders, or a bunch of serious technical engineers and stuff like that over the last year or so? Or am I wrong on that?
Imagine that one of the big problems they have is the expenses of being in San Francisco. So my guess is that some of the lower tier coders that just don't make quite enough to afford to live in the area, they've probably been leaving for cheaper areas. Microsoft is up in Washington, kind of near Redmond, I think. There's a lot of tech happening down here in Southern California.
Yeah.
And our rent isn't great, but compared to San Francisco, it's not too bad.
Actually, I knew my friend's older brother used to live in San Jose for work, and making $120,000 a year, if I recall the story correctly. He qualified for a low-income house loan.
Yeah, I believe that's still true.
And so then,
I mean,
yeah,
if you're only making 100, you know, and that only 100, like that's a bad wage. But if you're only making 100, you know, that would be kind of a problem.
Well, in San Francisco, they say, at least from what I learned, at least what I came to learn last year, what class was in, I don't remember, but the comfortable wage in San Francisco to live comfortably was $100,000 a year.
Wow, that's crazy.
You know, so like, I think that just shows. I mean, $100,000 a year, and then they have like a staggering, like almost like vertical rise in homelessness. You know, in the last decade.
It's just another reason why.
Is that for single people? So if you're married, then that's another income you can rely on.
It's another income, but still $100,000. You know, maybe. I think you maybe can work it, but I don't know what's comfortable. Comfortable is what, like a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom apartment? Maybe, not a home. You know, like I said, comfortably. I didn't say like extravagantly. So it's not going to be like a $2,000 or $3,000 square, you know, ranch house out here. You know, up here in the, let's say like the Sussex foothills or something like that, or better yet, maybe a 3,000 or 4,000 square foot ranch house out in Texas. We're talking about a small little apartment, maybe a studio. No, hopefully not a studio. That'd be terrible.
But I mean, that just, you know, highlights why those other areas are so attractive. You know, I think for the first time in a while, more people are moving out of California than are being born here, or something like that.
Actually, it's not. It's not the misconception. It's kind of a misconception. It's actually more people born in California are leaving California, but there's more immigration into California from, let's say, outside the country. So that's actually, it's a net even. So as many people that are immigrating into California, as many native people are leaving California.
Gotcha.
So it's kind of this, some would call it replacement, but I mean maybe that's a topic for another time. But that's kind of a misconception, but also true. At least on that end.
If you say it properly, it's true, kind of a thing. I gotcha.
No, yeah, I mean, I think it is proper. You know, it's still a significant amount of people leaving California on the day-to-day, going to Texas, going to Nevada, going to Utah, Arizona. I mean, Arizona right now is getting swamped with people. You know, coming from this side of the border. So
it's true.
The state border, state border. You know, states have borders too.
Well, I know that the worst things you can be in Texas is a recently immigrated Californian.
I would be surprised. I would not be surprised. And it goes to show, at least if we want to look at, you know, election maps from last election in 2016, showing how significantly blue things have turned, like in Dallas and Houston. You know, it's not the native population, or I would say native population, but, you know, the native Texan population just all of a sudden, you know, just swinging, you know, Democrat, almost not electing Ted Cruz in an election, I think.
And there was a lot more money on the side of Beto O'Rourke. He had a lot of money. So Texas is still pretty solid.
I mean, 2 points. Percentage points in Texas for a sitting Texas senator. That's kind of tough.
Yeah.
You know, and that's even though there's a lot of money on Beto O'Rourke's side, it does show in the urban centers how much things have changed the last 10 years, 20 years, and I think much of it has to do from California immigration or people moving from California to those states.
Yeah, you're probably right.
So maybe that's I don't know if you guys want to talk about that now or you want to talk about that later, but I think that's an interesting topic that needs to be covered, especially before 2020, at least.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's something that Republicans definitely have to worry about. It's a problem. But I keep hope. I'm hopeful that we can turn California around. But
I don't know. Maybe I'm going to be very skeptical on that. I don't know if it's going to be turned around anytime soon.
Yeah.
There's more chance of a civil war happening in the state than.
Ooh, I don't know about. I'm definitely not that pessimistic.
I think society would have to collapse in on itself, and then even then, I don't think California will ever turn red.
Well, we'll see.
Is that pessimism? That's like post-apocalyptic level pessimism on that.
Bad pessimism, considering how recently, California has been red.
That's the interesting thing, right? California, unlike other states, like most states go through like a purple phase before going blue. In a way, so if they go, like, let's say, like Ohio or Virginia, North Carolina, I think, well, no, Virginia and Ohio are probably the best examples. Maybe Pennsylvania, where, like, they're conservative, and then they go maybe a couple elections, maybe a decade or two, where it's kind of in between, right? So it's purple, right? California didn't have that. California went from the late 90s being a solid Republican state, or the middle, early to middle 90s being a solid red state, to going blue. Yeah. Even though the governor was even though Governor Schwarzenegger was governor, he wasn't really a conservative.
Even if he was real conservative, he only won because of his celebrity. That had nothing.
And actually, from what I've heard, at least this was from political, if I remember anything from California government political science class, was that he would not have won in his first election because it was a recall election. It wasn't an actual standard election or standard general election. He would have lost in a standard general his first go around.
Well, do you remember that time at all, Mikey? Do you remember that election?
A bit. I remember. I know a lot of things were put on Gray Davis.
I'm talking about after Gray Davis, like, the porn star that was running, the Mattress King guy that was running. There was literally like 100 candidates at some point. Like it was ridiculous.
Yeah. No, I don't remember all the candidates, but I remember there being a bunch of candidates. Again, I'm only a couple years younger than both of you, so I kind of remember, kind of don't. I just remember at the time Gray Davis got recalled because a bunch of things got thrown on him from not just his own mismanagement, but the mismanagement of other governors previously to him.
It mainly boiled down to Enron. If you want to pin it to any one thing, it was the sweetheart deals that he had with them and kind of the cover he'd been providing for them.
And how Enron completely destroyed our power grid in the process.
The problem is they didn't destroy the power grid; they were just controlling it. They were in absolute control of it and had the ability to determine when it would work out best for them for your neighborhood to have a brownout and how that would increase their rates. It's actually pretty similar to something that Uber drivers do.
Okay.
Uber might have fixed this problem, but definitely at the beginning of when the app first came out, Uber drivers realized that the algorithm shoots up the price when it determines that there's not enough drivers in an area, so the rides get more expensive
or a mass amount of demand.
Yeah, but the drivers figured out that they could all log off at the same time, drive the price up, and then everybody logs back in and they're making more money.
Okay.
There were Facebook groups that got formed that were doing this sort of stuff. And the funny thing is it's actually a very similar phenomena to what Enron was doing with power to increase the rates.
Okay. Yeah, well, I mean, at least how my dad used to tell me about kind of the whole power situation late, going in from, I forgot who the governor was before Gray Davis. Through Gray Davis, and going to the election of Schwarzenegger, where they would shut the generators off at peak time.
Yeah.
And then in the middle of the morning, they would run all the generators. So they would just overload the grid, like at 3 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the morning when nobody was was it? Nobody was awake, no one was using power, and then when it came to, let's say, maintenance, that's usually how they do it. They classify it as maintenance. They would shut generators off during peak hours.
So they had to come up with, after it got found out, they would, to cover their trails, they came up with bogus reasons, but they were remotely turning on and off all this stuff, and there obviously wasn't any actual maintenance that needed to be done. Obviously, well, there is maintenance in general, but it wasn't legitimate at all. He was preceded by Pete Wilson.
Pete Wilson, I think if I remember correctly, Pete Wilson had some issues infrastructurally.
So California was a legitimately red state until 2003.
Yeah. That's how bad things got. Now, is it because it being conservative, as many would say?
Oh, no, I'm 99. I apologize.
99.
I'm misreading something. Sorry, let me just clarify that, because
give myself a little refreshment here.
So legitimately elected Republican governor up until January 4th of 1999 in California.
And that was Gray Davis? No.
Pete
Wilson.
And then Gray Davis was in for a couple of years, and then...
Well, the funny thing about Pete Wilson is I believe that his father was governor, and I believe Brown's father was governor as well, so we have kind of a tradition of...
Yep, that's true. Because Jerry Brown's, I forgot his father's first name, but he was governor during like the 50s, maybe the 60s, or a long time ago. So yeah, there is this kind of hereditary thing.
Yeah.
What would you call it? Pat Brown. There we go.
Yep.
Now, before I think we move on to the next subject, which is kind of weird, and this kind of just hit me when you brought up Enron, that there are people nowadays that are growing up not ever being affected by Enron.
Well, I don't know if you guys remember. I don't know where you guys grew up, but do you remember smog days? Like, where you would not be able to go outside at school because there was too much.
Days. Yep, I was a little kid. Yeah, I remember smog days. And then what?
We don't have smog days anymore.
Not down here, no.
Well, I mean, generally, I don't think places really have them on a consistent basis, because there were a number of reasons why they happened here, specifically in Southern California, namely the kind of bowl shape that our mountains form traps in a lot of natural dust, and then car exhaust kind of added to the problem and made it unbearable.
Yeah.
But if you've noticed, the reason we don't have smog days anymore is because of the increased pollution, emission standards, and those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, Fresno has smog days, but they call them no burn days in the San Joaquin Valley, because it kind of something geographically that you were saying, but it's worse. So they're not allowed to burn. They're not allowed to burn fire because of the pollution. And actually, a good amount of that pollution actually comes from the Bay Area, and it blows in.
Okay.
So that's why, like, San Francisco, even though I think San Francisco doesn't have any emission standards in their county, I think they're exempt. There's actually
there's a lot of different levels at which people are responsible for emissions. The federal government has different standards. The state government has different standards.
Yeah.
County governments can have standards. City governments can have standards. It's a jumbled nightmare to try to figure out that kind of stuff.
Well, all I know is that, at least when it comes to the state standards, San Francisco, I think the Bay Area County, so whatever county San Francisco is in, and then there's a county up in Northern California that are completely exempt. And I know this because I had a friend who, I think he still owns or owned at one point a Chevy, is it a Cadillac? Yeah, a Cadillac hearse. And he had a completely straight pipe, and he was allowed to have it legally because he registered it in that one county. So he could straight pipe it, not have any catalytic converters on it, no muffler, nothing. Just because there's no standards. At least in this one county, one of like maybe 2 or 3 counties in the state, but loopholes, right? That's how they got the emission standard passed for the rest of everybody else.
Nice.
That's how it goes, right? So, but
fact about San Francisco is that the same boundaries are both the city and the county.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I knew that.
I did not know that, and I thought it was kind of whiz at geography. Well, would that be geography? Yeah, that would be geography. Something like that. Yes, geography. But I did not know that. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I learned something new today.
Isn't that fun?
Isn't that fun? All right. So, on to more news.
And that concludes the now granted geography corner.
I think it does. Where the person, at least on my end, in the corner, or actually, there you go, in the corner, did not know about the geography corner. So, you had me at this.
I can start getting maps if it turns out to be a popular segment.
Maybe get out maps, maybe a laser pointer, or what you do is
easel.
What?
A little 3 tripod easel.
Oh, okay. Okay. We're going old school there. No, what I was gonna say was we should do what they used to do back in the day is we should get outlines of countries, so just like their shape, just the outlines, and then we should throw polls on what country is this. If people guess correctly, then they might get a cookie, a virtual cookie. The start.
Well,
we're not rich people here.
Free subscription to now granted.
A free subscription to a free service.
Yeah.
I think PewDiePie has been giving away invisible hats pretty successfully.
Oh, has he? Oh, that's wonderful. So. That is wonderful.
Who is somebody? One of the podcasters I listen to. I have no idea.
Invisible hats.
Or one of the it's one of the podcasters.
Oh, Jesus. Invisible hats.
Everything gets jumbled up here,
Oh, I mean, there's so much information out these days, right? Trying to process it, trying to filter it. Most people just get bouts of anxiety and then self-medicate and then just get up and try to do it all over again. But did I say most people? Maybe most people. The majority of the country's on antidepressants, so I would say that's self-medication or medication of some sort.
It's crazy the amount of drugs that legal, illegal, quasi-legal.
Well, some of them are wonderful things, One person's little helper,
Yep.
Get people through the day.
Technically, everybody's on drugs because your body runs on drugs.
Runs on drugs.
Caffeine drug, serotonin drug.
DMT. Hey, have you taken DMT? Have you tried DMT? Wow, that's amazing. Have you tried DMT?
Yeah, I think you'd be better at the Alex Jones than the Joe Rogan.
Oh, probably. What is it now? Was it interdimensional aliens are influencing a breakaway civilization made up the scientists and global elite that are harvesting children for the pedophilic vampires?
Yeah, something like that. That's pretty close.
I love it. I love it. Because
that sounds like a good movie plot.
That sounds like an amazing movie plot.
It sounds like reality.
I think, maybe with this new movie, I think Alex Jones should star in it, and I think he should be the director.
It's not a movie. It's a documentary.
It's a documentary.
Bro.
What?
You didn't hear. He actually said that. So I think Eddie Bravo either made some claims or he might actually believe that the Earth is flat. And
I think he does. Yeah, he argues that
Bravo does.
Yeah, he believes the Earth's flat.
So Alex Jones offered to spend $1 million on a trip down to Antarctica to go to him that the Earth isn't flat.
You should totally do it. I want to see Alex Jones in his beard.
He's like weaseling out of it. Oh, I'm not going to go. I'll send a proxy. I'm like, you can't send a proxy because then he just won't believe it. It's not worth the $1 if you're not going to go.
It's like the guy who shot himself in a rocket. He got himself 1,600 feet or something like that. And it's like, well, it looked flat to me.
Oh yeah, I had an interesting idea today. So I think what Joe Rogan, the next step in his career, right? I think he needs to run for Congress.
Yes, I
think so. I would vote for him. Hands down, I would vote for Joe Rogan.
He's completely independent, completely neutral. He can go wear like a George Washington wig and be like, "I'm completely independent," the way George Washington wanted.
Oh, okay. totally and jacked.
So his only platform is, I don't have any of my own opinions. What I'm going to do is, before every vote on every major bill, I'm going to bring in experts and have them debate and talk about it, and we're going to discuss everything.
Joe Rogan podcast on the floor of Congress?
Yeah, or from his office. Like
No. On the floor of Congress. Have his table with microphones, cameras, running the podcast.
Well, here's the thing. Both sides are going to hate him. Republicans are going to hate him. Democrats are going to hate him because he's independent. And he's just bringing attention to all their secret, nonsense that they don't want anybody to actually understand.
Yeah.
Because the other thing is, he would agree with me that he doesn't know anything about how the process works. So he's going to be figuring out how the process works along with everybody else.
That's probably the most brilliant part, I think, of this little thing. I was just envisioning his podcast on the floor of Congress, telling everyone to shut up when someone else was talking. And then, hopefully, maybe, let's say, a year in, when he's done, 600 episodes or something like that, 700 episodes in the year, he had Alex Jones return again on the floor of Congress, on the podcast, yelling at everybody. That's amazing.
But I mean, minus the Alex Jones part, I think that would be an incredible podcast.
It would. It would. And then I would love him on a subcommittee talking about whatever lowly subcommittee they throw him on.
Well, that's the problem. I don't think they have to put you on a subcommittee.
No, they don't have to.
So I would just completely exclude him from all of that. But we'll see.
Oh, no. I would have want him on a subcommittee, about nuclear energy or about the shrimp on the treadmill or something like that.
Nuclear energy would be a good one for him because then he'd be podcasting about it all the time.
He would. But then, when you have whatever expert up on stand being questioned, he would probably ask, hey, man, that's amazing. Have you tried DMT? That would be amazing. I'm just, okay, so maybe,
we just gotta go post it on Reddit. That's how we get his attention.
Okay.
He's enough fame that he just does it in his backyard. He's liberal enough that he's like, yeah, the last guy was a Democrat. I'll just keep voting like him. That's how my actual votes will go. But I'm gonna do all these interviews and do all this stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty interesting. I just really want to see him in a George Washington, wig.
I do too.
A wooden teeth grill. So how most people get golden grills. He could get one that's wooden.
Yeah.
Like old G-dubs.
Yeah, most people I don't know. So, we call it wooden teeth. Oh, well, yeah, it would be wood.
He just carry around an axe, and there's a cherry tree. He just starts chopping it down. That'd be a great campaign.
It would be a great campaign. I think this should happen. Let's make this happen for all our listeners, all few of them right now. Let's make this happen. Spam Reddit.
Subreddit.
Well, I was thinking he can revitalize the Libertarian Party.
He's not really a libertarian though, and if you really, when it boils down to it, if you were to ask him, he would tell you that he's just completely neutral, I think.
He is the little center of the political compass.
And the thing is, he wouldn't need a whole political apparatus because he doesn't have ambitions outside of just this one seat. He's not starting a new party. He's not starting some kind of movement. He's just winning one seat in an area that he can probably get, good name recognition. And he just goes and does stand-up there every night and calls it a campaign rally.
Yeah.
So he gets to test out a bunch of new material.
I can't wait for his speeches on the floor of Congress.
Yeah?
That would be amazing.
Oh, it'll be the best.
It will be the best. it will be the best. With all the disagreements I have with Joe Rogan, this would be the best. This would really unite our party, or no, unite our country.
We unite the country, yeah.
Yes, we would unite the country all around Joe Rogan. We will elect it. We will.
Sorry, what were you saying?
Oh, I was just saying that, not even just for Congress, we'll elect him president. We'll just completely get rid of Congress because no one wants to listen to them anyway. If we look at pretty much every investigation they've gone through, every questionnaire that they've thrown out, nobody wants to listen to these people anymore. Yet we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars an hour making these people ramble on, or having these people ramble on about useless nothing. I would like Joe Rogan just to be there by himself, or not even by himself, but just be there.
Oh yeah,
just have a great time.
He'd be bringing in, UFC stars. It'd be great. It'd just be a big party.
Oh,
come on down to DC. He's got an office. We can party there. It'll be amazing.
It would be amazing. Also be amazing, hopefully, because he'd be a congressman, is for the State of the Union, SmackDown. WWF.
Oh yeah, he would be at the State of the Union. We could see him either stand up for everything or not stand up for anything.
Yep.
I don't know what to decide to do. You could just stand there and clap the whole time. Just be like, yeah, America. Do the opposite.
Okay, when it comes to the State of the Union, and maybe I know we covered the State of the Union a couple episodes before, but why is it every 20 seconds people have to stand up and clap? Can they just listen to the whole speech?
I know. You wish.
I wish. It's just, you gotta stop. There's more clapping in the State of the Union. It's like the Oscars. There's more clapping and patting each other on the back than there is actual speeches or actually anything getting done.
Yeah. Well,
the whole speech is probably 15 minutes long.
The speech is not about getting stuff done. Don't have any illusions that this. I mean, they're not even voting on anything. So
no, it's not even that. It's just it's. We've gotten to the point where the president actually didn't even give a speech, the State of the Union speech, to now there's not really a speech and everyone's just clapping.
I think that we've pretty consistently, the president's been giving State of the Union speeches.
I believe in the beginning they didn't have to. In some cases they would just send it. What? Or you find out
now. They still don't have to. It's just kind of tradition.
Yeah, it's still tradition. But I've heard in some cases where they just send an intern or something with a letter. I mean, back in the past, like a courier with their address, and then someone in Congress just reads it out from the president.
I don't think they've ever not given it in person. So the first State of the Union was January 8th, 1790.
Oh, okay. I could be wrong.
December 8th, 1790, in person by George Washington. He did it every year of his presidency. John Adams did it all 4 years of his. Oh, wow, there's a big break. So Washington did it in person, Adams did it in person, and then it goes to Woodrow Wilson before it's in person again. You're right.
Hey! Woo!
That's weird.
That was a complete accident.
Then Harding.
Yeah, and then it seems like every speech after Wilson, right?
So Woodrow Wilson gives his last one in 1918. The next in-person one was 1921. Then we had 22, 23. Then the next one was FDR in 34. FDR gave one every single year after 34. Then Truman gave one. Oh, then there's a break from 43 to 47 when Truman does one in 47.
Okay, well, that's probably just because of the war and everything.
I think from then on, it's every single year.
Okay. So
except 23. Whatever reason. So there's just random years where it's skipped.
Probably just political infighting.
You know what? I think the standard is you skip your first year. Yeah. I don't know how that works. I think in the year after the election there isn't one.
I think so. Well, because you're only in for a couple of days.
Yeah.
Because
so
it's like
qualified to the State of the Union after a couple of days.
What is it, like January 17th or 21st or something like that, somewhere around there. It's when they actually get inaugurated.
So it's different for Congress and for the president. I think Congress is like January 3rd.
No, the president.
It's usually around the 20th.
The 20th. So if you want to think about, so the 9th, right? The 19th or the 20th. Oh, you have to get a State of the Union address like in February or whatever. You got to know exactly everything that's going on in the country in a couple of days.
I think normally the State of the Union happens around the same time as the inauguration would be actually.
Oh, okay, that's probably why then.
So I think that they basically count the inaugural address as the State of the Union type deal.
Oh, that could be possible.
I'm looking up State of the Union addresses. Donald Trump has a list of State of the Union addresses. It has Donald Trump on February 28th, 2017, which was the first year he was in. It says it was, rather than a State of the Union address, it was an address to the joint session of Congress. So just a regular address, not really a State of the Union, maybe a repeat of his inauguration speech.
Yeah, probably. Okay, cool.
Oh, that's weird. It might count.
And Barack Obama did the same thing in 2009.
I think what they do is they count the inaugural address as one.
But that's in January, right?
Yeah.
This was in February.
Well, what I think happens is they submit it in paper or something stupid. I don't know. I could be completely wrong and misunderstanding.
This is a list of televised State of the Union addresses.
Well, because I'm looking at a list of in-person, annual. So the title is in-person, annual message, and State of the Union addresses. So that's pretty inclusive, and it doesn't have anything for Trump in 2017.
Okay, well, because it was just a session of the joint session of Congress. So
all State of the Union addresses are joint sessions of Congress.
Well, not just joint sessions of Congress. It is also the Supreme Court and Joint Chiefs of Staff and a bunch of other people too, for at least the State of the Union. So
no, they up, but the other people are extraneous. They're not required to be there. They are given the honor of being there.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
And the honor to fall asleep, if we know.
Yep. Was RBG? Was she at the? She wasn't at the State of the Union.
She was at the. She was the first speech, and I think she fell asleep.
She was. You mean in 2018? Yeah.
2018.
But 2019, I don't think so.
No, she tends to skip out on all the Republican presidents.
Well, I mean, she was.
True?
I think so.
That was.
She tends to skip out on Republican presidents, yeah. So she doesn't go through all the State of the Union addresses.
Well, she could have. Maybe she died in George Bush's time.
That's a lot of Febreze they need to use.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg isn't a name; it's a title that gets passed on. Gave the position to the title, so she died. Then they had to get someone that looked as old as her, so she's dying again.
Or maybe just a clone, or they clone it up to the point where she dies, and then she inhabits somehow the clone that goes on for maybe a couple of minutes, and then it just keeps cycling.
It's just a body double like Saddam Hussein.
A body double. Well, that's a lot of body doubles. Maybe all those body doubles are, how we can call it, people that know stuff about Hillary Clinton and her campaign.
Well, that's the best way to get rid of them.
Yeah, right? So, I would then say...
Seth Rich.
All right, then. Well, I think... anything concerning domestic politics before we go into foreign politics.
I don't have a whole lot, to be completely honest.
Not a whole lot. Well, how about off the top? Was it coming from the top of the head and maybe from the intro? Hillary Clinton's interesting comment of she's not running in 2020, but she's also not going away. So
yeah. That was a pretty bad flub on her part, I guess. So did you pull up the video that got sent?
At least how do I say? I can watch it. I don't know if I can actually play it through. So
well, see if you can play the audio.
I don't know if I want to do that right now, just because we're kind of on a roll. So I think we'll just talk about the quote. So I think it's interesting is that Hillary Clinton is just. If she's not going away, then what is the chances of the DNC actually succeeding in 2020? At least as the gains is that they want to, I don't know, at least hope for like the president or the presidency, just for the fact that, well, how lame and how boring and unattractive as a candidate she was in 2016. And also, there's a lot of problems with her side of the fence in the DNC, considering that, say, like younger, more invigorated voters, at least on the left. I don't know. I think this is she's kind of an anchor, you know. But that's just me.
It's she's definitely a thorn in the side of the Democrats at this point. They couldn't possibly like her anymore. You know, she's just. It's so funny to me how, you know, you talk to anybody who's a Democrat and she was the most qualified person to ever run for office, and it's just like she's actually probably one of the least qualified people we've ever had run for president.
Yeah, actually, the most qualified person for president is probably hands down George H.W. Bush, so senior.
I mean, if you want to call, depending on what you call qualifications, I'd say his involvement with the CIA was a disqualifier in my book. But.
Oh, that's right, CIA. I think also the FBI too, right? No, just the CIA.
It was his type of guy didn't float around between those different agencies at that point, so he was a CIA man. He was the director for a while.
He was, and then I think he went into being the ambassador to the UN. Yeah.
So, you know, by qualifications, on paper, I guess technically he's probably one of the most qualified to ever run.
So,
really, if you want to talk about qualifications, the best qualification is someone who's successful at campaigning, and Hillary Clinton has never won an election on her own in her life.
Yeah, it's true. Always kind of dragging Bill out of the closet after, you know, whipping him pretty good, throwing out with shake hands.
Was she ever? I think she got elected to the Senate once or twice. I think it was just once. I don't even think she got reelected to the Senate.
I don't know. That's hard. I don't remember that because she was a senator from New York.
So in her entire life, she's won one election, maybe two elections.
Yeah, and then everything else she's been appointed or she's had the Clinton machine behind her.
Yep. Well, I mean, you know, I'm not saying she didn't have a part or play some role in Bill Clinton's campaign, but selling yourself and selling somebody else are two completely different things.
Yeah.
And, you know, with her husband, she had a great product to sell. I don't think anybody really wanted to buy her product.
No, I don't think so. And so, but like the thing is, and I mean, this is maybe something from an article or something I read just recently about how Bernie Sanders has signed or has agreed to run as a Democrat, or not run as a Democrat, but no matter how he runs, he will govern as a Democrat if elected.
Think about that.
And so now the thing is like, so you have Bernie Sanders saying that he's agreed to leading and governing if elected president as a Democrat, and having Hillary Clinton and her tentacles still in the DNC or in the Democratic machine.
Well, I think that he's still running as a Democrat, isn't he? I don't think he's running as an independent.
I don't know.
He's primary.
He registered recently as Democrat.
As a Democrat. Okay, so that's something.
He's also running for re-election for his Senate seat as an independent.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, you can run for both?
Yes. John McCain did the same thing. John McCain ran for president and also ran for senator, and when he lost the presidency, he still won the Senate seat.
That's awful.
I think.
That shouldn't. I think certain states have measures that block that, but that's so terrible. Like if you're gonna run for something, at least run for it full.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
put all the chips in.
Well, I mean, that's the whole thing now with the political system is once you're in, you lose less and less every time. So,
yeah, that's true.
So I don't know. I just find that strange. Is that when I don't know, Bernie Sanders being the one that people are looking to like go outside the system agreeing to be a part of the system, and then Hillary Clinton, the person who kind of is the system, at least in the Democratic Party, still hanging around.
Yeah.
That's disconcerting. So I don't know how it's going to go forward with all the candidates on the field.
I don't think there's any chance that Hillary Clinton actually runs. I think she's hopeful that she can still have a chance, but I don't think anybody else is really on board with that at this point.
Yeah. Crazy times. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So I guess we want to move on to North Korea.
I think so. So I'm gonna see if I can pull out the article real quick. But yeah, it seems like the peace talks in Hanoi have failed dramatically. Depending on what news source you read. So I'm gonna see if I will throw that up real quick. And oh, come on. Why are you doing this? Here we go. Perfect. So on my end. And this is coming from Sky News, so a source from the other side of the pond. Headlines and quotations: "We have to walk. Trump-Kim summit ends in failure." Donald Trump said Kim Jong-un had asked for all sanctions against North Korea to be lifted, and the U.S. could not offer that. So
I kind of have a completely different take on this.
Okay.
I think that the reason why he couldn't do a deal has absolutely nothing to do with Korea. I think it has to do with the Democrats, actually.
Okay.
I think the Democrats and the CNN, and I think the Democrats and I believe CNN both were acting in conjunction to make it completely impossible for him to sign a deal. So the way we're setting it up with the Cohen stuff going on back home, like those hearings were scheduled for the exact same time he was going to be in Vietnam. And they just the narrative that they were going to sell if he had made a deal was he's only making this deal to cover up the fact that he's got this Cohen testimony going on. Basically, that's what they were gearing up to report. And so if he had actually gone through with a deal, it would have been something that got attacked just because of the timing.
Yeah, that could be true. But if I'm going to take the article just face value, so let's say maybe not that behind the scenes context, it just seems like status quo when it comes to North Korea. So let's say like as a reader who doesn't really follow politics all too much, or let's say is kind of like the sort of layman, I would say like more and more like myself. I would just say it's a standard status quo, because usually all these talks and these agreements, coming through the past, how do they call it? That kind of fizzle out. They kind of start up and they fizzle out. Usually ends up North Korea not wanting sanctions. And I don't know, like if I remember correctly, just watching. I mean, as a kid growing up, watching much of this going on, being debated and stuff like that. It would be just the fact that North Korea would kind of get big and puffy, bunch of sanctions put on them, give it a couple of years, then they go to the table, some sanctions will be lifted, not all of them, but some sanctions will be lifted, and then they kind of just do the cycle, over and over and over again. And I don't know if that cycle is still continuing. It's kind of hard to tell, at least on my end, but it just seems like that's usually the deal breaker, right? Is we want to be the same, what we want to do without all these sanctions. And we put sanctions on them, and they're like, well, there's no deal. And it's like, okay, well, no deal then. So.
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest thing that Trump's done is he started a personal relationship with Kim Jong-un. I believe that they actually like each other on a personal level. And the result of that has been that, we've gotten our American troops remains back. That's huge.
Yeah.
The leaders have North and South have both met, and their leaders crossed each other's borders. That's huge. And then, they also haven't been doing their testing. I think it's been 240 days or something like that.
Yeah.
Since the last time that they've done any kind of, long range missile tests.
Mm-hmm.
That's huge. So, you know, he gotten everything? Has he hit a grand slam yet? No.
No.
But the problem is we're calling it like it's the end of the game, and we're in the third we're in the third inning.
I wouldn't think we're in the third inning. I think we're more in the first or second.
Exactly.
So I mean, if you want to judge by that, if you give me a moment, gentlemen, I gotta run for a quick minute. I'll be right back. So sorry, viewers, for while I'm streaming. Just give me a second.
All right.
Yeah, I guess it's just us now. How you doing, Kevin? You haven't been talking a whole lot.
Yeah, a lot of this North Korea stuff, I have no idea what I'm talking about. So I'm learning a lot just from listening to you guys.
Yeah. What? Do you have any questions? Because I don't have all the answers, but maybe I can.
I wouldn't even know what to ask.
It's incredible.
Is the goal to unite the Koreas or to have them just live a two-state solution, so to speak?
We're not even far enough in the process to really start having that conversation. Anybody that's thinking that way, unifying the countries, that's kind of like a 100-year plan. That's not something that's going to happen tomorrow. So right now, if they can just start, economically working together, if the main thing is just getting North Korea to open up more. As soon as that happens, the regime as it stands right now will cease to exist. Because at the moment, North Koreans just don't know. They have no idea what it's like to live in the 21st century. They're still living in the 1800s. Maybe they have a radio, so it's like the 1920s. But even then, it's a state controlled radio that you can't get other broadcasts other than what's officially sanctioned by the state, unless you make illegal modifications or it's so crazy in North Korea we can't even understand it. And so to expect that gets reunified overnight might be a little bit ambitious.
So what do you guys see happening in North Korea, let's say in 5 years?
Personally, I don't see too much, actually. Knowing how at least to my knowledge on how the system of government works, very centralized, a singular autocrat, and heavily militarized in that sense, and a planned economy or a centralized run economy the way it is, with the almost I would say religious, or ultra, I would say an ultra fanatic religiosity.
Is Kim Jong-un's grandfather.
Where it's so, I don't know, it's just there's so much going into it that there's not going to be much change, and if there were, it would be disastrous.
So it depends on what you mean by change. If you mean change in the United States relationship to the Korean Peninsula, I think there's going to be a huge change in the next 5 years. As far as the government of North Korea, I'm not nearly as optimistic on that one. But I see us ending the Korean War. I think that Trump really has set that as a priority. He wants to be known as the president that ends wars. So one of the things the Democrats were concerned about when he got elected in the first place is he's going to be a crazy, deranged, dictator starting wars with everybody all over the place. But if you look at what he's actually done, his goals have been, how do I get us out of these conflicts? How do I reduce our troop numbers? You look at Syria, he's reducing the number of boots on the ground down to 400. In Iraq, he's looking to wrap up our involvement there. Afghanistan, the same thing. So I think that he wants to be known as the president that ends wars. So I definitely see that document being signed before he's out of office. And I think that because of the relationship that him and Kim Jong-un have, that is going to happen, probably in the next 2 years, but definitely if Trump gets reelected within the next 5.
Okay. I mean, that's possible. I mean, this is the most amount of communication between this country and North Korea
in
ever.
60 years. Yeah. So, you know, it's not that big of a deal to, you know, end the war, because it's, you know, the war's basically been over for 60 years, you know, for 50 of those.
The shooting part of it.
Exactly. So it's just a paper and a not emotional, but kind of a thought process difference. You know, we're gonna have to think of them differently once it's signed, but it's not actually gonna dramatically change anything.
Yeah.
You know, not anything tangible, at least. So I don't see them getting reunified. You know, early on in the process, I was hopeful, and I had a little bit more hope for that. But looking into kind of the realities, just being where we are today, where it's been, you know, 3/4 of a year without any kind of testing, that's huge.
Yeah,
so
I think so too. Well, also that same site also imploded.
What?
I think their main missile test site imploded. So that also put a damper on things. But
whatever brought him to the table, I don't really care. It might have been a combination of necessity, and then you know, Trump's negotiating style is just radically different than any president has had, at least in the modern United States, you know, since the 1940s.
Yeah.
You know, he's decided that the problems aren't, you know, with the nuclear weapons. That's kind of a symptom. So let's go in and change the relationship that we have with North Korea and their, you know, dictatorial leader. Treat him like the person that's actually in charge, and you know, and like somebody who can actually make a decision for the country, because realistically he is the only one who can, you know. So
hopefully, you know, and the thing is, hopefully, if they say like there's a paper signed, and maybe just playing off to maybe some of the anxiety, much of the anxiety that people that they say are not, I would say, Trump supporters, would probably have is not signing the piece of paper too early.
Mm-hmm.
In a sense, because in a way, maybe this is a valid criticism, maybe not, but for, you know, as you say, he wants to be the president that ends wars. Probably not try to end them too early, because
what war do we have going on right now that isn't way past due?
So that's also the question too. But I'm just saying, when it comes to Korea, with security concerns that people have now, maybe that will change with that personal relationship. But the thing is what happens? Okay, so here's a good question: what happens when that personal relationship more or less ends? So,
well, I don't think that the next president is going to have any choice but to continue it in a roughly similar fashion.
Okay.
Because here's the thing: if the next president comes in, Trump's got a peace treaty. They're well on the way to unification, all that yada yada, right? So the next president comes in, and all of a sudden that stops for whatever reason. They're going to get 100% of the blame. So it's going to be on the next president to continue the status quo, and the new status quo is Trump's, and you know, that's actually working.
And
so
what?
I
was going to say, what happens if there is no new status quo and it kind of just stays the same?
Oh, you're saying like nothing, like it goes forward and Trump doesn't do anything for the next
or just nothing happens.
Yeah.
It's not like Trump's not doing anything. I mean, the first part was, let's say, if there was a new status quo, or the new status quo, and then it being changed by a different president. But now, thinking, or kind of going off another angle, would be what happens if it just stays the status quo. You know, how does it affect this president, at least, you know, after?
You know, I think that he still gets looked on favorably historically.
Okay.
You know, it's difficult to tell how historians are gonna look at anything. Take a look at George Bush. Like in the news, he was reviled.
Oh, he was the worst president until now, right?
Right. But if you know, I was going back and watching the CNN documentary series, the 2000s. They do each decade since the 50s up to the 2000s.
Yeah.
And it was a love fest on George W. Bush, like from CNN. It was crazy.
That's probably one of the most insane things is they start trotting out Bush during the election 2 years ago, or almost 3 years ago now, and he's like Uncle George that everybody missed at Thanksgiving for a couple of years and is happy he's come back off the back on the wagon.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, growing up, like, it was like those were horrible debates, arguments I had with people, about George W. Bush. Oh, he's not a bad president. He's a terrible president. No, he's not. Things like that. It was very divisive. Very divisive.
I remember for his second election, how they do those mock elections in schools.
Yeah.
And of course he, lost totally here in Southern California.
Yeah. I mean, it was, those were interesting times. And it's like, that didn't, like 10 years later, or what was it? He got out, 2009? Yeah. 2009, give it like 10 years later, or, 10 years now, back almost 3 years, so 8 years. 8 years after that, nothing happened.
Yeah.
Oh, Georgie's great.
The funny thing is, I remember, even back in high school, the Democrats were much more of the party against war, peace, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Look at today, the party of war and wanting to stay in all these countries and. Oh,
Rachel Maddow going on how we should have armed forces on the border with Russia. If not, then you're colluding with it proves your collusion with Russia. Like what?
They want to stay in Iraq. They want to stay in Afghanistan. Like if you look at even 2007, 2008, the Democrats were practically rioting in the streets to get out under any circumstance.
Oh yeah, even when it came to that.
The region.
Yeah, when it came to it's so weird. But like I say, when Rachel Maddow of all people is advocating to have troops stationed on the border with Russia in other sovereign countries, and if you don't, then you are, that proves your collusion in a sense. That was the general sense of it. That was, it's kind of shows insane how the times are. In a sense, when it comes to, it's just crazy. So, it is just crazy how things flip. Yeah. So well, that's foreign policy, I think. I don't know about you, Kevin. What's your take on all this? Or you had a take. Maybe you give another take.
I don't have any take.
You have no takes. You're usually very quiet. We got
on topics of foreign policy. I'm just an audience member at that point. I'm one of your viewers. I'm a now granted viewer at that point.
It seems like you're a now granted viewer most of the time, my good man. Freaking now granted viewer of the month right here. Should have a little frame. I should put over your face.
So I get my free subscription.
No, you provide the memes, so.
That's true. That is true. Which now I think we're queuing into, right?
Is now a good time to transition over to that? That wasn't my goal, but I should have just let that transition take place.
I think so. I think this transition can happen without your consent, my good sir.
All right. So, actually, I don't know how Kevin's going to see this. Let me share my screen with him.
Yeah, I think you're going to have to do that. I don't know how it's going to be on my side, but yeah, I can definitely pull them up on my side. Oh, there we go.
Just started sharing that, so I think we're all three seeing it.
Yes, I think so.
We ready to go? I guess it's already showing up on your screen, so.
Yeah, it's showing up on mine, so it's. I think we're all good. We're all good.
Well, you know what? Let me try something real quick. I'm gonna add some sources on the fly just to really mess everything.
Oh, really mess with us in the audience.
Yeah.
And you say that I am the root cause of all our technical problems.
Uh-huh.
Oh, thank you, Ryan. The technical wizard here. Maybe I should start by turning my computer on and off.
I agree. You should start with that. All right, let's. There we go. I hope everyone can see this.
No, I can see it. It's a little smaller on my side, but I think people I think people can see it.
Okay, so you guys are right there. I can be over here. All right. So what do we got up here, Kevin? Can you kind of describe what we're looking at?
First meme of the night. India announces toilet one. First toilet in India. So, by the way, they have about 9 months to become the superpower they're supposed to be.
What does that mean?
Oh, India was supposed to be a superpower, like one of the leaders in the world by 2020.
And they're not.
So they have about
So they have 9 months.
They're just barely announcing their first toilet. So.
Well, it could go like Civilization, where by 2021, like was it be like Sid Meier's Civilization, where Gandhi comes back and just starts nuking people?
You can hope.
What?
I said you can hope.
You can hope. That would be interesting. Maybe this is a step. Maybe the step they develop toilets, and then they improve the nuclear program. They resurrect Gandhi, nuke everybody.
They have to improve the nuke program, though. Is that important?
I think it's important because they can only hit Pakistan at this point.
Do they need to hit anybody else, though? That's the real.
The thing about it, hit Pakistan, get the Chinese involved. The Chinese get involved, we get involved. If we get involved, Russians get involved, and with the Russians get involved, Europe gets involved, and maybe that's all we need to hit. So okay, India, make more toilets, nuke Pakistan. They really needed to stop using the Ganges.
Yeah. In the streets. The open streets.
Yeah, right.
All right, are we ready to move on to the next one?
I think so.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Oh shoot. All right.
You are a male athlete who is tired of being mediocre. I'm a lady. Yeah, there's been a lot of stories recently about transgender females winning certain titles in their sports, playing as women.
Yeah. Hey, that was one of the big controversies. Because we brought up Joe Rogan already. I think is it Fox? Farrah Fox? Fox? Yes.
Fallon Fox.
Fallon Fox. There we go. Who transitioned because he was mediocre UFC fighter. Goes and fights against women. Ends up being mediocre as well.
Yep.
That is probably the funniest of the whole lot.
Well, it's terrible that that's allowed to happen. Men should not be competing, especially when the real tragedy is in college sports where they're starting to take women's scholarships. Or it's keeping these women from getting the best scholarships because they're not actually winning the title.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. The world we live in now where men are better at being women than women are. A man's won Woman of the Year now. They're winning all these races against women. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
terrible.
And especially in MMA type fights, they're really doing some damage to the actual female opponents.
Yeah.
It looks like domestic violence.
Oh yeah, they're doing in MMA. They're doing physical damage, and then they're doing collegiate and academic damage to the women in the NCAA.
Yeah.
All right, we have the next one.
Yeah, let's do the next one.
This is one. I don't know if it's technically a meme. Kevin, you can rebuke me if I shouldn't have included this. But it just feels like that's a CNN article at this point. You know, military drills in South Korea could lead to dangerous levels of peace. Experts warn. You know, it's insane how realistic some of these satire pieces are getting, just with how crazy the left is, and like we were saying earlier, them being the party of war.
So. Well, I'm just gonna say just outright, just overall, the United States, North Korea, South Korea, countries that no longer have war, what will we do with ourselves?
Well, that is it is a legitimate problem. With one
what do we do ourselves as countries? We're not fighting people. Maybe we start fighting amongst ourselves. Oh, yeah. There we go. How about this? Peace on the Korean Peninsula. We exit out of the Korean Peninsula. We exit out of the Middle East. We exit out of all the other 100-something countries in the world. We'll all come back, and we have no one else to fight but ourselves.
Oh yeah,
the large-scale civil war. Why do I sound so enthusiastic? That's a terrible thing.
We know you are. That would.
Is it terrible? I don't know.
That in a post Civil War II apocalypse where we're all living on canned tuna and trying to survive the nuclear holocaust, we know that you're like one of those scumbag generals that's leading a town, or
hey, don't forget the child soldiers. Do not forget child soldiers.
An actual skull that you wear, like an AK-47, and then just like the most ridiculous, like just strap as your suspenders. They'd be your suspenders.
Suspenders.
It's true.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. Yeah, I can't. Pass up honest and honest criticism.
That's the future I'm excited for.
That's the future you're excited for. Man, I thought you pretty much lost your enthusiasm with canned tuna and Cheetos.
That sounds pretty good, actually.
Scientifically, anything that's going to survive the nuclear holocaust. Yeah, the packaging on the Cheetos, they got to have the silver inside so it reflects the radiation, and then
you wear them as hats.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's what you need to do before. After the nuclear holocaust, after that happens, all the electronics are going to be fried. So
most of them.
You got to worry about the government when the government doesn't exist.
That's true. Unless the government doesn't exist.
You are the government.
That's right.
Grenade suspenders are for.
The what suspenders?
The grenade suspenders.
The grenade suspenders. Yeah, there we go. That's right. So, are they just a strap with grenades, or be overalls with grenades on them?
They're actual suspenders that you've just attached grenades to.
Oh, okay, cool. There we go. Yeah. I like that.
You're a simple man, Mikey.
I'm a very simple man with simple tastes. It's what? It ain't much, but it's honest work.
Exactly. Yeah, and you'll see that with a piece of hay in your mouth, standing on a mound of skulls.
Leading my drugged up heroin, my drugged up child soldiers to commit genocide.
Well, you gotta have some reason why they follow you.
Hey, there you go. It's my charisma, it's my personality, I think.
All right, I think we've pretty much milked about as much as we can out of that game.
I think we can.
We're forgetting to rate them.
Oh, are we?
Should I go?
Back? Yeah, let's do that real quick.
All right, back to the first one.
All right, this one I'll give a 9.
Okay, see, I'm going to give this one a 3, because I'm going to be completely honest, I had no idea that it was talking about the first toilet in the country. It's set up like it's some kind of space program. So I was a little confused as to what it meant.
Yeah, this is a format that's kind of popular.
Okay.
It's usually that
the text,
someone is announcing something to the second, the sequel to something.
Yeah.
But in this case, it's the first one, so that's what makes this one kind of extra funny.
Okay. Mikey, where do you fall on that?
I'm gonna give this one 8 nukes to Pakistan.
Okay.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Where do you guys fall on this one?
I'll give this a 4.
Yeah,
4.
I'm thinking 5.
Yeah, 5.
It's a solid 5. You know, not familiar with whatever this came from. If I should be or shouldn't be, I don't know.
I think this is
A Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends.
Yeah, Foster's Home.
Yeah.
I never watched that, so I didn't have that.
I think it's Is it Foster's Home? Yeah.
Yeah, I think
it's Foster's Home.
Is that Blue as a lady?
No, it's not Blue. No, Blue is Blue.
Well, maybe he's being a lady here. That's why it says I'm a lady.
Yeah.
It's not Blue though. It's another character that I don't remember.
Okay.
All right, moving on. Where do you fall on this one, guys?
Oh, I give it from our conversation that you know, not preceded it, but preceded now the rating. I would probably say 8 grenade suspenders.
Nice.
There we go.
Kevin?
I think as it's not actually a meme, but it's a good piece of satire.
Okay.
I'll give it a 5.
Okay. Yeah. I really liked it. I put it up there, so I'm gonna give it a solid 8. But that's why I put it up there.
8 grenade suspenders. There we go.
I don't have too many. This our last one, so we'll see here in just a sec. Oh, we got a couple more.
Okay. Stalin memes.
You know, there's all these hidden messages in these old cartoons. You know, that's really not a mistake. That put that in there because they knew what's up.
It's communist propaganda in SpongeBob.
SpongeBob. Nickelodeon. That's why we have a bunch of communists running around today. Goddamn you, Nickelodeon. Was it Nickelodeon? Yeah, this is Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not Disney.
It's not Disney or Cartoon Network. Well, Disney is like the ultra freaking mega corporation, you know, unadulterated capitalism.
You know, be buying Nickelodeon more than likely. Like that. Just buying Viacom. They're just going to be all media. Everything's going to be Disney next year.
Well, if it's not going to be the horrible Civil War / post-nuclear apocalypse that I'm hoping for, it's going to be just Disney. Ruling everything, making everything.
I might have mentioned this before, but a couple months ago I was looking at the numbers. Did you know that Disney and Netflix have about the same market capitalization?
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
That's why Disney's going with its own streaming program or service.
Yeah. Yeah. So both companies, if they were to be for sale, are worth about the same amount, which is just that blew my mind because, you know, obviously Disney's been around for decades.
And how massive it is.
Yeah, when they have so much physical infrastructure, like those parks have got to just be worth a mint.
Oh no, but more. It's not just the parks. It's actually it's all the video rights, movie rights, script rights. It's actually, and now with the upcoming merger with 21st Century Fox, it's still pending, but I think they've offered like $51 or $52 billion.
Yeah, it looks like it's going through.
It's going through. That means, if I remember reading correctly, or not reading, but my friend telling me correctly, it's going to be 60-something% of all movie theater sales.
Yeah.
And they'll own like I don't know how many what the percentage of all movie rights.
Yeah.
Because they're not just buying all movies coming out now, they're buying everything that 21st and 20th Century Fox ever produced.
Yeah.
As well. It's like if that's not a monopoly, then
well, the reason they're able to get away with it is because of Netflix and Amazon and Hulu. Well, I guess they're basically going to own Hulu, so I guess not Hulu, but Netflix and Amazon are, like I said, Netflix is almost as big as Disney, if not as big.
Yeah.
And then, you know, Amazon's the biggest corporation in the world, and they both have thriving
streaming services.
Services.
But the thing is when they own 21st Century Fox, right? So much of the stuff that, like, much of the movies and TV shows that Netflix and Amazon streams, they'll have to pay for it to Disney to keep the rights.
We'll see what happens there. That might be where some anti-competitive stuff crops up. You know, Netflix complains that they're being anti-competitive, or Amazon, or, you know, it's gonna be a huge mess. But what it's really highlighting is just how much power traditional media is losing.
Oh yeah.
This would have been unimaginable 10 years ago. 10 years ago, cable subscriptions were still pretty solid. Most people didn't have, a streaming service. They might have had Netflix, maybe, but even at that point, it was still, giving you the DVDs in the mail. So just the entire media landscape is 180 degrees different today than it was then.
Yeah.
So I think more than, some kind of anti-competitive issue, I think it really just highlights the waning power of those movie rights. How do most people consume their entertainment today? If you look at the money, tons of it's going into gaming, and there's a much greater return on investment for your time when you buy a video game than when you go to a movie, because you're spending $10-15 to go see a movie for 2 hours, whereas you can pay $60 to play a video game for 100, 200,
depending on the game.
Yeah.
And depending on what you do, or let's say if the game's like replayable, that's also it's so.
So
video games.
If you look at where people are spending their money, it's increasingly on video games. People are spending a lot of their time on YouTube, and a lot of these services that aren't traditional media corporation services. So we'll see where it all ends up. It could just be kind of the only thing that these media companies can do to compete is to consolidate everything that they have into one big corporation, and then that's what goes against the other big internet corporations.
I think Disney will win.
We'll see. We'll see. Netflix sure is going to put up a good fight. They're not going to.
Maybe that is the civil war.
Yeah.
Is that Netflix and Disney and Amazon they start actually owning governments, and then when they become the governments, they start nuking one another. or they become like a corporate oligarchy where these corporations just start nuking people and eradicating people just so they can keep their algorithms stable.
Nice.
So something like 1984, where you have the big super nations consistently at war with one another to keep things stable.
That's the future I'm fighting for.
That's what you're fighting for. it's like you come out with a depressing future and just make it more depressing.
Yeah.
Don't worry, Ryan. It can be worse. I think it can be worse.
Back to the gulags.
Back to the gulags.
The gulag. Yeah. I would not put it past those writers to have understood the potential message the correlation that might have had.
Would it be weird if I saw another correlation? Or is that just too explicit?
What is it?
I don't know, goo.
Well, I think they put it as goo because they are already underwater, and goo looks
goo. Yeah,
it's the only way they can reconcile a beach underwater is.
Well, they actually do have pools of different, not materials, but different substances that stick together. And the specific, if the specific density is lower, then it goes to the bottom complex. Mm-hmm. There's actually places where, because of the different temperature of water, you can have what are called underwater rivers.
Because of the pressure.
Yeah, well, it's because of the different temperatures and
cool.
That kind of stuff.
Okay, so we scientifically explained the meme.
Yeah. We're finishing returns.
We didn't even rate it.
Yeah, we haven't gotten there yet.
I think we've ruined all of its funniness.
I think we did.
That's what we do. We're the meme ruiners.
You know what? Let's ruin this meme. You know what? That should be the segment. Let's find a funny meme. Let's just ruin it for everybody. Yeah. And I think that's fine.
Hunter's the end of Bambi. That's our job.
But the hunter's the end of Bambi.
Yeah.
Oh, that must have been really good venison.
All right.
So sausage.
When Kevin.
I'll give it an 8.
Give it an 8. All right.
Someone like Stalin. Much. I think you need to visit Richard Nixon and get a visit from Richard Nixon. All right. I'll give it about a 7.
I'm gonna give it a solid 7. Made me laugh. So if I laugh, then it gets at least a 6 or a 7.
Okay.
7. All right. We at least
the last one.
See.
One more. Oh.
Jeez.
This one's pretty bad. I do have to admit, I do think they are a bit more intelligent than she is. It takes a special kind of stupidity to get caught with some campaign finance violations as big as hers first time around.
Really? How big?
Not at all.
No, not at all.
Her campaign manager was funneling like $1 million over to this super PAC that they still controlled.
No.
Just stupidity. Nothing more than pure stupidity.
What, is it like a $2,000 fine or something?
No, she might face up to a year in jail.
Oh, just jail though.
Because the kind of violation that she had was incredibly flagrant.
Yeah. Ooh.
It's like PACs are set up specifically to not allow this to happen.
And it has happened. So
I remember when I know for a fact that you absolutely cannot coordinate with the campaign if you are working for a super PAC.
No, you cannot.
From my understanding,
no.
She was controlling that PAC or that super PAC that she had set up to elect herself. So it's like the worst of the worst.
That's ugly. Yeah. No.
If it turns out to be true,
that's big. Because that's how super PACs get an unlimited amount of money.
Yeah.
By not coordinating with the campaign. No communication whatsoever, but there's always communication, always, but not direct control, like overtly. Oh, that's bad.
If it's true, I don't have any actual sources, but if it's true, she's in some pretty hot water. That's why I'm liking the meme.
I think I'm liking.
Isn't she also paying her boyfriend with the PAC money?
Yeah, so I think that's technically some kind of an ethics violation, but there's not like a law against it or anything that she can go to jail for or anything like that. But I could again I'm not 100% sure what she is accused of doing in that instance. But it's definitely a bad look to be paying off your boyfriend for when he's not doing any work. Though that fits into her frequently asked questions page on her New Deal website, subsidizing those that are unwilling to work.
Yeah.
All right, so I think that's the end of our memes. That was another fun segment tonight, gentlemen.
I think so.
Not as many as the last time. We got to be sure to be putting more of those in the chat.
Yeah, we got rookie numbers here, right?
Yeah, we can do better.
I think we can. Maybe we can.
Kevin can.
Can we?
Can we? I don't know.
Well, my one submission was a failure, so I can try again. Mikey, did you contribute anything? You gotta put something in.
Okay, fine. You caught me.
I know it's gonna be dark and awful, but you gotta put something.
Well, because I'm subsidizing my non-participation with your guys' participation. So I don't have to do anything. You guys get to do something. And we still have a show. At least this segment of the show. So
we're at about an hour and a half on our broadcast this evening. I got a pretty early day tomorrow.
Yeah, I think it's time to cut this loose and definitely, yeah. I have nothing more to add for tonight. I don't know about you gents, but I think that should be it.
I think that we've had a pretty successful Facebook live stream. Seems that a few of my friends have joined us this evening.
Oh, cool! Yay!
If you guys can send out a message on Facebook and share that when it goes live, we can get a few more.
Alrighty. Well, at least here on YouTube, I think we have 1, maybe 2 solid watchers. So, thank you for YouTube, at least on my end, for joining us tonight. And, well, hope to see everybody so very soon. So,
yes.
Good night from my end, and that should be it.
Good night, gentlemen. Have a great week. It's next Wednesday.
Yep, next Wednesday. All right, 3, 2.